All right. Welcome, everyone, to NGNG Live. I am your host, Patty Zor, and joining me today, I have a very special guest. I have Jake Dreyfuss and his daughter, Samantha, who goes by the name of Hi, guys.
Hey, what's happening? We're so glad to be here.
Well, welcome to all those who are watching. We are live, and I encourage you to please start a watch party so we can get this message out to all those who need to hear it. My teammate Casey is in the comments, so if you have any questions, feel free to send them. She will be sending them to me throughout the broadcast. So Jake is our Chief Strategy Officer at Kaizen Coaching. He also works with the NGNG team. And so for Jake or Samantha, tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do.
Oh, man. Hi, Sam. She's waving in case you get the benefits. It's crazy, by the way, how different a sick day is now for kids than it was when we were kids. Like I was like locked in my bedroom. I was forced to take a nap even though I couldn't nap. And I was like lay there for very different. So my role, just like everyone watching, my role has many different layers to it. Sometimes it's strategy and just kind of like trying to figure out the best way to approach, a new client opportunity or an opportunity to work with our team and help them get where they want to go. And sometimes it's just purely operational. So, I'm fairly new in the role. It's only been a few months. And so a lot of what we do when we first start is like just to unpack all the standard things. We look at where's our data? We look at databases. We look at, what's our client experience look like? How are our financials, of course, right? All those things. So it's, just like with many roles, it's partially left brain, logical things, partially creative stuff. And I think over time, the goal is to grow what I'm doing more into the creative side. But right now it's really looking at all the, the X's and O's if you're a football player, like designing the plays and making sure that the finances are in where they need to be so that we can grow and serve our clients in the way that we really want to.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we're excited. This is actually a fairly new role for NGNG. We are amidst everything happening in this pandemic world. So it's been a really exciting time. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in. So Jake, my hope is that through our stories, through NGNG Live, is that we will help others find the courage and strength within themselves to go out and follow their professional dreams, that they will get on a career path that will excite them, inspire them, and really help them feel fulfilled. Because we know there's a lot of people out there who are just working the day-to-day, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, or maybe it's even like 60 hours a week, right? But they're just miserable in what they do and maybe feel like there just aren't any other options out there for me, or I'm too scared to take that next step. So the show is called No Guts, No Glory Live. So will you tell us a story about a time in your career that took guts?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it's a really healthy conversation. So often I don't think many people discuss guts and taking risks, and so thank you for leading the conversation. For me, I think one of the largest decisions my wife and I made together was in our transition from Philadelphia to where we are now. We're in Denver, and I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people probably thought we were a little bit crazy. And the story goes back like a few years before the decision was made, actually. So I read the book The One Thing because it was part of the company culture that I was in, and from there got friendly with who's now someone who's actually now a dear friend. I actually just got off the phone with him, Jeff Woods, who is basically the voice of that book. So he's taken that book and created a community around it. So now there's thousands of people around the world who contribute to a conversation around living your one thing, or really focusing in on what you're passionate about and removing some of the clutter around it, because that's actually what leads to extreme, amazing results when you peel back the onion. And what Jeff does every year is leads a goal setting retreat. And I was at the first one he did, and it was just a goal setting retreat. It was like you show up and you learn how to dream again. You learn how to set goals. And because that's not something that we're typically taught after we're 7 years old coming out of kindergarten, and someone asks us what we want to be when we grow up. That's pretty much the last time someone asked you. And so when he asked the question, like, do you have the skill of dreaming? I was like, well, I don't actually think I do, if you really ask it in that context. So that got me thinking. And then the next year, when they did the goal setting retreat again, they made it for couples. So I invited my wife to come, and begrudgingly she joined. And it was a really interesting and challenging couple days where Jeff and Jay, who lead the conversation, challenge you to not just share what you want, but actually to understand what the other person wants. And the goal is not to necessarily negotiate for a shared goal, although hopefully that's where it ends up. It's merely the goal is actually to understand each other's dreams and aspirations. And in a couple, sometimes that can be hard because we really want to make things work. We want to make them click. And I think sometimes actually what creates the friction. So anyway, long story short, just like many of the other couples there, we didn't agree on much. We both had really distinct views of what we wanted. Where there was overlap, though, was where we believed we wanted to live a life of adventure. We wanted to look back and say our life was an adventure. So that was helpful.
I love that.
And so my career coming out of college, so I graduated Penn State in 2003. And every year after that, essentially, only thing I knew was real estate. I worked in real estate. And by the time our big decision was coming up, I was now a partner in running one of the larger real estate teams in the country, and a partner in owning the office and some other things. I was very, very fortunate to have some of these opportunities present themselves. My wife had for 7 years been one of the only remote employees for a company based in Denver. And they had just gone through a big round of private equity funding, partnered with a massive, awesome company that helps software companies grow and evolve. And she was presented with an opportunity to start a new division for the company, and that was her dream. So we had one of those moments where, okay, the kids are at that point 5 and 4, basically, and we have our life. We own a home in Philadelphia and some investment properties there. Our family is close by. It's where our lives began. It's this kind of like this classic story on the East Coast where people tend to stay. And so, but we, again, because of our goal setting retreat, we thought, well, we want to live a life adventure. And when Alex had the opportunity to say yes to this job, and it is an in-person job here in Denver, we said we're going to move. And to make things even a little more complicated, where I think where the courage came in to this conversation, to your question, Patty, was my business partner was one of my oldest and dearest friends. So kind of add that complexity to the mix, and it was like, well, again, if we're looking back at the end, if we're fortunate enough to have a deathbed where we're able to look back and like take stock of everything we've done and decisions we made, like, would we regret this, or does this feel like it's really close to that courageous moment, that adventure that we want to live? And so we said it was. So we decided to make that move, and I remember starting to tell people, and you can kind of, especially with our family, and raising young kids, like the ability for them to drive and see us versus fly, 3 hours and some of that complexity. You kind of see the life drain out of their face, and the conversation would end with them ultimately supporting us because they knew that it was in our hearts to continue to be adventurous. So we did it, and we've been here now a little over a year and a half. And when you actually look back now through this COVID lens, I'm actually very grateful of the timing, because had that opportunity, had the company merged, taken on private equity funding later, had they delayed making the offer, it may never been important to them to have this person be here in person for this role. So everything happens for a reason, and I'm grateful that it did, because this move here has brought our family closer together. It's forced me into a harder position of re-envisioning what I want for my career and really following my inspiration. And the kids are thriving in an environment, they're growing up in a place where they wouldn't normally have experienced, black diamond skiing when they're 6, in the Rocky Mountains. Very different than what I grew up with. So, so the courageous piece, I think, came in the business decision, in the emotional decision, in the friendships decisions, all those things. And it put us in a place where we are, now a family unit that's living a life of adventure.
I can totally relate to the story. So my family and I, we pretty much did the same thing. The only difference is we really didn't have a job offer out here. So my husband and I, both from Southern California, it was in 2007, just about maybe 6 months before the housing market crashed. And I was reading Money Magazine, and at the time, Fort Collins was the best city to live in. And so I came home from work, and I was actually on a trip. I read it on an airplane, and I told my husband, I'm like, have you ever thought about like moving out of state? And he's like, well, where? I'm like, Colorado. And he's like, well, he likes to fly fish and he likes to hunt, and kind of, he's really outdoorsy. And he's like, well, that's kind of the only place I'd ever move. So we literally like flew out here on a weekend, stayed the weekend, and just really fell in love with the town. So I completely relate to your story. We, haven't regretted it once, but same thing. All of our family still's back at home or Southern California. So do you remember, before moving, do you remember talking about some of your fears or kind of what scared you most about uprooting your entire family and going to a place where I'm going to assume maybe you probably didn't know a whole lot of people or maybe didn't even know anyone? What did that feel like? Or what were you scared of the most or afraid of the most?
Yeah. I mean, in Philadelphia, I was surrounded by people that I had grown up with for the previous, 30 years.
Yeah.
Here I knew one person. And my wife had a better social connection because she'd been flying back and forth for 7 years and visiting the company. So that was a fear, is like, who will I turn to? Like, it's like starting over, and the same point, it was also exciting because like this adversity, we talked about this with the kids, like, they had to start over too. They'd make new friends and they had a great social connection. So we were worried about that, of course, because we're parents who care about our kids. And at the same time, it's like inserting adversity seems like great training for life. Like if you know how to roll with the punches and, make the best of the situation, be social, make new connections, learn how to do that. It's ultimately a life skill that will pay dividends down the road. So of course those things like rattled around in my head. Like what if, my entire real estate practice on the residential side was based in Philadelphia. I know no one here. What will happen to my legacy? What will happen? All the what ifs start spinning around, and they get bigger in your brain than they actually are in real life. Like you move here, and you realize, okay, my neighbors are great. Met people through the kids' parents, like instantly. From the kids at school. Just go out and get involved in a club, or go to meetup.com and just put yourself out there, and good things happen. It's remarkably simple when you just get into action, but like the phase of worry is where it lasts the longest. And you're like, man, that's why, like, if anyone is considering a big move like this, I would say just like make the decision and go. Like, don't take 6 months and plan out, just go. Because the anxiety build up potentially during that time is too much. But so worried about that. Like, I made the decision to sell off our investment properties. We made the decision because I wanted to be present. I wanted to be here. I didn't want to worry about a tenant having a leaky toilet in the middle of the night. And yes, I know I could have hired a company to do that, but I was like, you know what? For me, this move was also about like a fresh start. It was about a clean slate and just being present and enjoying it. And so I'm a worrier, so I worried about all those things. And it wasn't until I got here I realized, how good it felt to have a clear slate, first of all, and how grateful I was. And then B, like how much opportunity there is to rebuild and to continue to create that. It's not like just because you sell something or give it up here doesn't mean you just can't recreate it here. So again, just like a battle of the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about the retreat you went on, and the theme was goal setting. Since Samantha's in the room there, I can hear her back there. Do you ever talk about goal setting with your daughters? And granted, they're a little younger. I don't know how much they understand, but
yeah.
How do you work on goal setting with them, and any tips on?
Samantha, come here.
Oh, all right.
Let's test this. Let's see. Come here. So Sam, come here. So what do we do every Sunday night?
Family meeting.
Okay, our family meeting. Okay. So can you tell Miss Patty what do we talk about at the family meeting?
Goals in our food for the night and what we love about someone and issues.
Okay, so we talk about what we love about each other. We talk about our issues. We talk about the food we're going to eat that week. We talk about our activities, right? And then we talk about what was the last one? The G word? Goals. So what are some of your goals? What do you like to set for your goals?
Running on the treadmill.
Running on the treadmill.
Oh, that's good
So,
one.
yeah, so we basically, we started that this year where we just talk about it every week and to get them used to, this concept of goal and achievement. And like the other day we went for a hike, right? And Bryn, her younger sister, said, I want this to be my goal. I want to do this again.
Oh.
So just starting to just bring that word into the house. I think just a lot, I have an awesome coach. His name is Abe. He was my first coach in real estate. And he always used to talk about awareness does all the heavy lifting. So if we just talk about them, not even like specifically what they are, but like talk about the word goal, then we just create awareness. So like, we're taking this hike. Bryn says, I want this to be my goal again for next week. Cool. And it's only because we just create the awareness. So, we're not perfect, right? We missed our meeting this Sunday, right?
Yeah.
But
and we forgot it on Monday.
Yeah, we forgot to do it again on Monday. But, that's our intention. And the kids remind us and we do it, but that's our goal, is to sit down every Sunday and talk about those things.
One of the things we do, and God, I don't know why we do it every weekend. I should. We'll actually do it at the end of the year. And so, like, for example, I have a 7-year-old. He turned 7 in 2020. But, last winter, his goals were like, let's learn how to swim. Let's learn how to ride a bike, right? Let's learn how to read chapter books. And it's kind of cool because he's accomplished all of those things. And I can't wait to show them, like, look at everything we did this year. So, but I like the idea of just doing it every week during a family meeting. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, and they're 7 and 6, and almost 7, almost like 3 days.
Big deal, almost.
And, it's cool because yes, we talk about the goals and the fun stuff. We also talk about issues. We create a space where it's like we're gonna come hell or high water. At least once a week, we're going to discuss things that are bothering us or upsetting us or making us scared or making us happy. And, so it's neat to watch it evolve. And it was not a part of my family culture growing up. And I'm interested to see what they, one day what they tell their kids about it if they do. We'll see. But
oh my gosh. Wow. Well, Samantha was great. I'm so glad she shared her story with us. So let's see. Any advice for anybody thinking about like uprooting their family and moving to a new location? Maybe any lessons learned along the way, or any advice to those thinking about doing it?
Yeah. So we talked about this earlier about like the fears, right? So we want to protect our children, obviously, or our friends or family, whoever we're moving with. And sometimes we can project our fear into them, and we think about it so much we believe that they're actually scared. They weren't. Do they talk about their friends at home? Of course, sometimes, here and there. But in general, they're like, this is exciting. That I wouldn't have labeled that emotion. Was there some anxiety around going to a new school? Probably, but fear or like not wanting to do it was never part of the conversation for them. So I think like just be super careful about like the emotions you assign to other people involved in the decision, because they're probably your own, and that's okay. But just own them. Like, okay, I was scared. I was scared to tell people about it. I was scared to what it would do for my friendship and my partnership and all those things. So that was me. Like, I don't want to assign that to my kids. I think other than that, just like you did, go and visit, just soak it in, and see how you feel. My wife and I, we made a decision to move once before to San Francisco. We made it sitting on a bench for BART, which is like the train there. And it was just because it felt right. We're like, this feels right. Like, so one of the people we work with who actually you interviewed last week or 2 weeks ago, I think, Katie Longhauser.
Yeah.
I watched an interview with her dad, who's a very wise dude. And he basically said, he was talking about business deals in general, but in life too, like when your heart and your mind and everything's in alignment, that's a deal. If it's not, no deal, right? Mm-hmm. So if your gut's telling you something, but your heart's telling you not to, or this, like, listen to that. It's probably giving you good advice. And just go for it. What's the worst that happens? You move back. Like we moved to San Francisco, and a year and a half later we were back. It's so easy now. And I think it also the positive side effect of moving is like you get to go through your stuff and like purge. And you kind of realize like, all right, this moved with me like cross country and back and then back again. If I haven't taken it out of the box, let's donate that. So there's all these good side effects that come with it, but ultimately, take a hard look to it. Like if people giving you really strong advice about whether to do it or not, I'm sure their heart's in the right place, but like take it with a grain of salt. It may be tapping into some things, some regrets in their life,
mm-hmm.
And just be really clear, like that advice is important and be on your own path, you
mentioned earlier that you're a worrier, and you have that in common. I used to actually be like a huge worrier. I felt like I would worry about like everything kind of all the time. I think I got over that. I think age maybe got me through some of that. Perhaps even like having the guts to, leave a career that I was at for, almost 11 years that, was a really great job. I think just kind of taking risk and taking chances and realizing like, okay, I've made some mistakes. I've learned some mistakes, but in the end, like I never really regret any of the decisions I'd ever made. And I don't know if just kind of going through that process has helped me to worry less. I feel like I'm really, there's that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I've never read it, but I've always loved like the title of it. And again, I kind of feel like, yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. Like this is dumb. Why are you wasting time and energy on it?
Yeah.
But again, I think maturity has like kind of helped me get into that mindset. Anything you do to help you worry less?
Yeah, I through years of some therapy and some coaching, just call it what it is. I think it's calling the awareness word again, calling awareness to the fact that if I was worrying about something, it was probably because I was listening to a generality. So generalities, to me, I'll speak in the first person. To me, generalities are super dangerous. This will never work. I can't do it. It's just not for me. Like those are all massive generalities that we should not accept because that leads to this endless conversation of worry. So instantly go, if I'm finding I'm going in that place. So like, one of my other coaches, Diana, used to say, you can't control your first thought, but you can control your second. So my natural first thought is like, oh, maybe, I don't know. The second thought is, well, if it's a maybe, that means it's not a generality, it means there is a chance. Then instead of just worrying about there not being a chance, let's just focus on the 1% opportunity there is to get it done. So instantly like catching the thought before it becomes a worry, I think is the piece of advice I'm trying to package here. Because worry is just nothing more than like a lot of ideas spiraling around in our head.
I think, like you said earlier, you're sort of kind of projecting something that probably isn't likely going to happen anyways, or feeling that it's kind of like a waste of time in a way. I don't want,
Yeah, it's like what they say, it's like a rocking chair. Like
right.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Like my wife and I use this. We kind of use this question all the time in our relationship. Like, is that 100% true? Oh, no. Because generally nothing is, right? Like if you really look at it, there's evidence, there's outliers everywhere. Like, my career looked like Steve Jobs, maybe not, but there's a chance if I wanted to, right? So because I think so quickly we write off things like, oh, it's not possible, but someone else has done it. So why not? I don't know, I think just poking holes. So allowing a pause between the first and second thought so you can control the second one and use that one as the voice on the shoulder that you're going to listen to instead of the first one. Knock the first one off and listen to the second one, because the second one I think is the one that's when your heart and your mind are all aligned, like that second thought actually comes out. I think, and that's also where like you can address like moving cross country. Your initial thought might be, that really scares me. The second thought is like, but I can really imagine the sun rising while my feet are dangling off the side of my surfboard. Like that would feel really good. Well, that's your mind and your heart. And that's everything coming together. It's like, okay, that probably means something. We should explore that, because it doesn't mean the first thought's not true. It may be crazy, and the other thought can be true too. They can both be true. But so often we let the first one determine our actions, and it's really the second one I think we need to listen to.
Oh my gosh. That is just a great way to end the show. Just leave everybody with that, right? You can't control your first thought, but you can control the second. I love that. Jake and Samantha, thank you guys so much for your time today. I think we're really going to walk away with a lot from this one. And to anybody out there, right, thinking about making a move, you can totally do it, right? 2 people right here. Literally, like we decided in a weekend, we were just going to pick up and move, and we had a house to sell. We had responsibilities to take care of. I think like a lot of people do, but if you really want it, you can do it. It's easy. It's not that scary, right? And I think, like you said, right, if it doesn't work out, you can always go back. It's okay. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And Samantha says thank you if you couldn't hear her. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Again, everyone out there, please start a watch party. We thank you so much for watching and for your time. And gosh, enjoy your afternoon.
Bye. Thanks, Patty.